We took a brief detour onto other topics, but it's important to cover all the reasons for suffering. And we covered, so as a reminder, the three are ignorance, desire, and anger. So, ignorance kind of speaks for itself when you mistake how the world operates and you think your understanding of the world is correct. Therefore, you make predictions, you make actions based on your functioning model of the world, but then because it's different from actual life, you are constantly proven wrong by reality, and that gives arising to suffering. That gives us results that we don't want. That doesn't give us the results that we want, and such. Secondly, greed or desire. It's all related to this one thing. I want something, and I can't be happy until I have it. Therefore, I don't have it and I stay sad. Or I get it, which gives me great momentary happiness, but it doesn't last. Or I have new corresponding desires after that. Therefore, I start the loop again and then again. I don't get it, I'm sad. Or I get it, gives me great joy at first, but then I need more. And so on, right? So this kind of a loop is responsible for the eternal kind of perpetuating forever machine of suffering, right? And the last one is anger. But to be honest, anger is a part of this. It's just translated to anger, but what it really means is when you are so consumed by your own thoughts, when you are so consumed by how your mind operates, you cannot take in any external feedback. No amount of external feedback or other viewpoints or other perspectives, or it doesn't matter because you are so deeply internally invested into maintaining your functioning model of the world. And as Buddhists, we have this thing called don't drink to the point of intoxication, which is different from don't drink, right? Because if you can drink, but then keep your maintain your sanity, like we have no real problem with it. But the thing is, the more alcohol goes in, the more difficult it is to maintain mindfulness. Therefore, you are likely to do things from a not mindful kind of a situation, right? You are likely to do things in a not mindful way, which will lead to regret, which will lead to undesired consequences and such. So, being drunk and being intoxicated is kind of that mode, right? Okay. I had one too many drinks, but then, oh, you know what? I should not drive, but today I'm feeling kind of good, so I'm gonna drive home. See, rationally, right? When you're not drunk, you wouldn't make these kinds of judgments. But then when you're drunk, because you're in that kind of like, oh, everything feels good, and then yeah, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can't think of anything right now, obviously because I'm intoxicated. That is what leads to this kind of the disaster, right? A lot of driving accidents happen. So it's things like this. Anger is one of them, right? So when you look at international politics these days, so many people are angry, and how you can tell is there's no discourse. One party says one thing and then they angrily react, and another party says something and then they angrily react, and this doesn't really matter whether it's like America, Republican Party, and Democrat Party, and it doesn't matter. Korea, the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party, it doesn't matter. So when you are so deeply entrenched in your beliefs, and sometimes, right? I could go for a burger or a hot dog. Okay. But I don't know. How about a salad? You know what? I could use some fiber right now. So okay, that sounds good. So you see, in these cases, you're not that deeply attached into this idea of like, I need to get hamburger or I need to get a hot dog, right? Therefore, when somebody offers salad, it's like, okay. But suppose you're so invested in the idea of having a hot dog or a hamburger that when they offer salad to you, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? How the fuck am I gonna have a salad when I want a hamburger or a hot dog? This sounds like a super extreme example, right? But it is in fact what is going on with a lot of the world right now, because YouTube algorithm and basically any kind of user curated content system enforces this kind of behavior, right? The more you like something, the more you get fed that kind of a thing. And because algorithm is usually driven by engagement, and it doesn't matter if it's positive engagement or just a negative engagement. If you write like a hate comment, it's gonna likely feed you more of that to make you outrage even more, because the machine can't really of course it can, but companies have ulterior agenda. They can stand to benefit from more active usership and the active user activity inside the application, right? So this kind of a pattern of usage will continue to perpetuate. So when I say, I'm gonna pick an example that's not related to American current politics, right? Okay, so I'm gonna give you the Korean political example. So yeah, so the ex-president of Korea, who recently got removed, many people think that he should be in jail like right now without even due process, because why? It's so evident that he declared martial law, and it's so evident that he tried to overthrow the country, right? Okay, but due process is important to have for any kind of a citizen, right? Because if you skip the due process part, then what stops what stops another dictator from enforcing that kind of approach to arresting you and such, right? So okay, so presumably you are watching this as an outsider of Korean politics, so you can clearly see both sides of the coin, right? Yeah, so of course, there are very visible faults, so therefore the visible faults will be easily proven in court, so all we need to do is just go to courts and then make it happen. But on the other side, you can also see that if it's that evident, why isn't the court pushing fast to do it like ASAP? Why does he get to roam around the country like a free man when he caused this much economic and civil instability in Korea? So as an outsider, you can, because you don't have a vested interest in it, you can be like, oh yeah, I can see why there might be a fight. But when you talk to a Korean about this, right? If someone is like, oh, what the fuck? It's like, why is he not in jail? They're super angry, and then another person comes in and it's like, but due process is important. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Due process, and then it becomes an instant fight. Why? Because they're so they're deeply entangled with that thought. It's impossible to separate like why another opinion is even available in the first place. And this kind of a deep, deep, deep consumed mindset, right? When you're so consumed by a perspective, you lose sight of any other perspective. The best representation of this happens to be anger. And so, when you look back in your life and you think of an instance where you are very, very deeply angry, we are most likely going to do a session like this where we just deep dive into your anger. The deeper you go into anger, why does this make me angry? Why, like, we're talking about politics in general, but why does it anger me? So suppose it doesn't even have to be all about politics. Suppose somebody cuts me off in traffic and I get really angry, right? Okay, so this person drove like that, but why does it make me angry? And the more analysis, rational, mindful analysis of anger you do, the more you will find that you tend to be angry when something goes against what you believe is right, what you believe should be the principle of the world. And when that is countered by the world, the reaction tends to be anger. But this is such a dangerous trait to keep in mind, especially if you are looking to free yourself from suffering. Why? Because it happens so instinctively, it happens so automatically, it happens so fast, it happens so unconsciously. Therefore, any kind of a mindfulness that you maintain is instantly going to shift into this consumed kind of a mode. So, that is why it is so hard for you to step out of anger once you are already in it. Because by, the definition of the state, mindfulness is relaxed focus. But when you are angry, when you are agitated, when you are consumed, you are in an activated state. And inside of that activated state, you you cannot take in the same kind of brain food that you would when you are mindful. Because why? You're in a different state. It's not going to matter what kind of feedback is presented to you. And based on my experience with coaching people for the last few years, when coaching doesn't work, it's because people are already coming into the session in this activated state. So, of course, there are ways to detach from this state, right? There are somatic techniques you can use, there are other things you can do. But the thing is, I am interested in you not playing catch up with the anger and the consuming of the mind. I want you to be mindful. I want you to understand why, what the reason is for you to be angry. Because without that understanding, there will come a point where no somatic technique is going to work. Where no other kind of, grounding technique or nervous system regulation is going to work. Why? Because how can you not be at the mercy of anger when you have a reason to be angry? The two conflict. For you to be completely free of suffering, there must be no reason for you to suffer. But if you have a reason to be angry, how can you not be angry? So the analysis of why does this anger me? Why am I angry? Is perhaps the most important self-inquiry that you can do for the pursuit of happiness, for the practice of developing mindfulness. So, I am predicting that the next, whatever session we have is going to be focused around anger, because it is, again, the most vital part for you to understand. How do I stop suffering?